kyabalimu okutegeera. Bobi Wine is too good to be true. Okuba otya Mengani yali akikoze. Abenengo babba ettaka lye. Baba bavuma ku social media ne Kabaka ne bamuvuma. Look, why is COVID selecting? Have you seen a high profile demand person in Bobi Wine's camp dying out of COVID? Why is it concentrating on the NRM? Why does this COVID targeting NRM people? Kubanga Bobi Wine gwe mugamba akatambuza tanafuna mu prominent person afa. Lwaki kalondoola be NRM ng'omulondo kiki mutambuza katambuze oba mulimba?
Mbaniriza nnyo mwebali kuba bawagizi ba TM Online Television nga bulijjo wetuli tutandise obbagaliza omwaka omujja gw'emirembe oluvannyuma lw'okumaliza Ssekukkulu byebiriro liro ebyowulira bibaluka emabega mwebali kutuwagira omwaka 2020 nga tuyingira 2021 kati omwaka guyingire ng'ongulako poloti yange eri Bunamwaya Trading Center eri mu size ya 20 decimal bw'obanga ogyetaaze 20 decimal yange mu Bunamwaya Trading Center kubirako ku Bright akubuulire ebisingawo mwenna abaagala okulanga business nga muyitira ku Mukutu TM Online Television yaffe eri ku online munkubire ku namba z'essimu tera okuzibateerako mu festive time n'omwezi gwa January lwe guggwerako twabawa 20% discount ku buli kirango ky'obeera okuba kati jangu oyogere naffe twebaza nnyo abalanze naffe leero ndi ne muzeyi Tamale mirundi Yozefu sijja kubanga mbalwisa kangende butereevu tutandike programu y'olwaleero.
Nze nsanyusa okulaba.
Nze gwosanze wange.
Atya.
Nze okulaba.
Zizere kusanga mirembe gyo. Nenzijja ne ngamba waaye. Kazije yegeri gyotebaka. Benze n'ensanyudde nnyo. Okusangamu. Simanyi lwaki leero gy'osazeewo okutuulamu.
Abantu gyoganga mu maofiisi eyo. Nga balowooza tuli baavu. Who can be swept aside like anybody. This is the problem of this arrogant wing, the youth wing of the mafia gang. They think that we are paupers. We can be thrown here and there.
Humiliated day and night.
Humiliated. Me, I'm a man who has graduated from a newspaper vendoring to where I am. That's why I don't believe in stealing. I believe in hard work. Therefore, I was a wrong apparatus to be used in their humiliating
strategies.
I am one of the people who don't agitate for government jobs. In fact, I feel comfortable when I'm working alone. And I'm a comfortable man because I don't have a loan. I don't have an overdraft. I only trade in my brains. So Uganda revenue authority cannot affect my businesses like other people. Because you see, in Africa to survive, and that's why many people believe, tolerate humiliation, is that life in government is very comfortable. You have a nice house, you are driven by
salary loans because you're working with government.
Huge salaries. Me, I knew that I was a visitor. I did not enjoy those privileges. That's why abandoning them was very easy to me. But I trust my brain. I've never been a life failure in life. In fact, if I was in Europe or America, highly developed countries, I would be highly regarded by society. Because the problem in Africa is to think that you work for government when you can actually work as a private person, make a foundation, make a research, write your books independently, and this is what has helped me. There is no issue in Uganda which I have not written about and predicted. And in many cases, my predictions come to pass. I've come with a number of books. This book, you see here,
The Invisible Hand.
Invisible Hand. I published it in dated 19th July 2012. This is when I realized that there was an invisible hand in the government. I detected in Mbabazi in 2009 that things were not moving on at all. And that was the time when I was still in the government. I am a risk taker. I said, the way I look at things, there is an invisible hand. Government was losing by elections, including that of Olw'Embeera. But on observation, the problem we have in Africa is that we don't have people in the intelligence who can analyze the pattern of things.
You see, Mzee, what I'm questioning about the invisible hand, I still don't understand why the invisible hand would work to overthrow a government where it is working.
Yes.
The people you're talking about were so close in the government, so entrenched with big government positions. Why would they choose to overthrow a government?
Mbabazi hit don't know something which Ugandans ignored. Mbabazi said there was a chew. That basically had jumped the chew. A chew means that there is a line. What Mbabazi was saying that Museveni had to govern and go. So that one, for me, I did not take it lightly. He's talking about a chew. And where do you have a chew? Except in the monarchies, where you have crown princes, a crown prince. But you cannot say that is a chew in a democratic society.
Of course.
Yes.
Where people have to choose
and
leaders.
And if there is a chew,
every after a certain time,
it means that somebody must live for some time and leave the second person in a chew. The second point I observed about Mbabazi, after mentioning that basically had jumped a chew, was the role of Secretary Generals. Many Ugandans don't know the history of Secretary Generals. The first Secretary General of UPC was Kakonge. Kakonge was frustrated by Obote because had a master's degree in economics from India. So Obote looked at this man as a threat, a potential threat to his presidency. Obote tricked Kakonge that as Secretary General, he should restrict himself at the UPC Secretariat to coordinate the elections because they were sure of winning after entering into an alliance with Kabaka Yeka. Kakonge believed the Obote, but at independence, Kakonge realized that he had no job in the government. When Obote appointed the 10 nominated MPs, Kakonge's name featured nowhere. Kakonge was frustrated and went into exile. The first Ugandan to go into exile was Kakonge, John Kakonge.
Frustration.
As Ugandans were celebrating independence, Kakonge was on his way to Tanzania. A frustrated man. It was Paulo Mwanga who offered his parliamentary seat to enable Kakonge to go to parliament. But at that time, assassinating, you see, Ugandans fear to assassinate people in an open manner. They resort to market tricks, publishing you, humiliating you, removing you from a crucial job to a peripheral job. So Obote did not assassinate.
And of course humiliating you from the peripheral job also.
So that you go back to them kneeling as if they are God. So Obote did not eliminate Kakonge, but he undermined him politically. Kakonge came back, but Obote organized a delegates conference where Kakonge was removed. And he was replaced by Grace Ibingira, the second Secretary General of UPC. Grace Ibingira connived with the Mengo people to remove Obote. That culminated into the 1966 crisis. It was a coup. And like any coups, the participants had to pay a heavy price. Grace Ibingira and 6 ministers were put behind the bars. Obote moved against Mutesa. Initially, it was Mutesa alone. He eventually abolished the other kingdoms. And many Ugandans don't understand that the 1966 constitution did not abolish kingdoms. Obote abolished kingdoms in 1967. Initially, he said it was a battle between Mutesa and himself. Obote offered to reconstruct the damaged palace in case the Baganda njokutta mugende ba mugende. And asked the Baganda to bring another king. He thought that the Baganda would do it.
So initially, did he really not abolish the kingdom?
No.
We thought he had abolished them in 66.
No, in fact, the Bunyolo Lukulato had supported Obote. That in a case he retreated his fight to Buganda, the Lukulato would support him. But Obote was not a democrat. Where a dictator. That's why I disagree with the people who say that Museveni is a dictator. A dictator cannot share power with the strong institutions. No. The traditional leaders in Zambia were co-opted on the ruling party, Kamunda's ruling party, to check their influence. In Rwanda, the leader of the Catholic Church was always an executive member of the Emiwendo, Habyarimana's party, to tame his influence. That's why the Catholic Church in Rwanda paid a heavy price. It was inseparable. The threat against Habyarimana meant a threat against the Catholic Church.
I want to tell you, when these people say he's not democratic, he's dictatorial, they are meaning the kind of democracy they are seeing is guided democracy.
No.
He chooses what should be democracy and what should be not.
The Baganda have a good proverb that a lazy person always blames his laziness to a hawk. Omunafu.
Yekwasa nkumbi.
NRM is not an interested party compared to Kanu, compared to the Zambian party, compared to Kamuzibanda's party. No, these were entrenched. NRM is not an entrenched party. In fact, I can authoritatively predict that it will go with Museveni. You cannot find a political party
after 3 decades
where people are fighting each other.
So fighting is 3 decades?
Yes. It doesn't matter. Kanu was a strong party. And in one incident, Kibaki pointed out that those who were fighting Kanu were dead dreamers. Kanu compared the Kanu to a mahogany tree, a mugume tree, that could not be cut with a razor blade. Kanu is no more. It's a shadow of himself. So going back, my argument, the Secretary Generals caused trouble in Uganda. When Grace Ibingira left, Obote appointed Felix Onama from West Nile. Onama was Minister of Defense. You remember, at the independence, the Uganda army had 3,800 soldiers. And many of them came from West Nile. So Obote believed that in order to tame Idi Amin, Felix Onama could tame Idi Amin. He appointed Onama. Onama fell out with Obote's brother Akenadoko. He found him with his wife. And Nechoni, not Akenadoko. Nechoni told Obote that unless you sack Felix Onama, I leave your government. He was Minister of Information. Obote told him, I cannot involve domestic issues, your family issues, with the way you manage a government. Nechon left the government in 1964. It demonstrates how Obote trusted Felix Onama. Felix Onama connived with Idi Amin to top Obote, Secretary General. So when Mbabazi, as Secretary General, pointed out that there was a coup, and I heard this history, I started investigating and looking critically at Yamama Mbabazi. There are only two Secretary Generals in our history who have not caused trouble, who have not tried to top of their bosses. Olw'Embeera Kirunda in the UPC and this woman, Lumumba. I even wonder how people are fighting in Lumumba. They are fighting her for money. They can fight anybody.
When it comes to...
Because they have this ancient belief of the Kalamajong, who believe that all of the cows belong to them. These people believe the mafia group. They believe that all of the money belongs to them. They have a very palatial view about the role of money in politics. I look at money as cosmetics. Cosmetics only help beautiful ladies. Money cannot help you to win an unpopular person to win an election. To complete artificial.
But didn't you see them using it to run as the sole candidates? I mean,
yes, but
NRM.
But does it help them? Because
of course they achieve what they want. They are going to parliament without competition.
Temporarily. If you declare yourself unopposed, let us ask, why should a bright student fear exams? Why don't you allow competition so that we know that you registered 90%? Buying off people does not help only temporarily. So this is why I wrote this book.
The Invisible
Hand. It was not easy for anybody to talk about Mbabazi at that time. No.
Super Minister.
Mbabazi controlled the media, New Vision. You would use every opportunity to undermine the others. And because for me, I look at things critically, there was a time when a New Vision was carrying armchair opinion polls like they are doing now. In such cases, they would portray Mbabazi as unpopular, inflating Kadaga. This was reverse psychology. That Museveni looks as Kadaga as an enemy when Mbabazi was consolidating himself.
Okay.
When I looked at the by-election...
They are playing around with Museveni.
Yes. I wrote about the by-election. We lost a lot of by-elections following the 2011 general election. I also took the advantage of looking at why we were losing. And I said, I wrote here, losing by-elections. Said the NRM has lost a number of by-elections, which in politics is normal, although the party must investigate the cause. Because the 2011 elections, the elections were manipulated. Ballot papers were printed by the New Vision. And heaps of them
that was
sold.
The NRM primaries.
Yes, on the open. In many cases, I said in this book that the president was the loser because the party chairman is not seen at the secretariat. So the losers and the winners, all of those who had the problems, went to the secretariat for arbitration, not to the president. So I looked at this election, said no, this election somebody is having a hand. And whenever the president went, he lost. He lost in Butambala, he lost in Luwero, in Nabu Kenya, who had organized a fake party, an embarrassing party from Museveni, including a rotten cake, rotten mangoes, rotten apples, defeated Museveni in Luwero. Even after the recounting, when the court ordered the recounting, because court eragira ne mubalanga difference eribiro 50 from 50 downwards. NRM had the chance of recounting, but the boxes are been tampered with. Who did this? It was a one-door room. There was no other exit. So how could the boxes be tampered with? It was done by insiders to embarrass Museveni. I remember in Butambala, the NRM leaders in Butambala told me, tell your boss not to come, because whenever he comes, we lose. Everywhere Museveni was going, this was intended to say that Museveni had lost popularity. That's why. So
those things were done by who? By
yes,
the invisible hand.
Done by an insider. I concluded in this book that a drunkard can die out of beer, but also he can die out of poisoned beer. Said it was normal for a ruling party to lose an election, to lose by elections, because NRM loses by elections. Why? In many cases, political parties, when they have a by-election, all of the devils of the party converge in one place.
Of course.
NRM does not have this practice. You only go there when the money is there. And they steal the money and come back. Their interest is not to win a by-election. 2, lawyer courts, judges can evaluate. If you have already registered more than 2/3 majority to pass motions in the parliament, the party, a sober judge, can decide to nullify an election of a party that has already secured the majority. I even pointed out that in Singapore, the opposition tricked the ruling party. During the nominations, the ruling party, the opposition did not feel it in many constituencies. It worked against the ruling party because the Singaporeans knew that the ruling party had already secured the majority
in the parliament,
and they needed the opposition to check the ruling party. So that's why on election day, many ruling party leaders, including the most popular ones, lost. Why? The population, the voters had already known that the ruling party had secured
the majority.
And therefore, electing more ruling party MPs would undermine democracy. So it was obvious for me to know that something was wrong. Somebody, an invisible hand, was undermining Museveni. Amawulire, it was not easy at that time.
To talk not about easy. Mbabazi, the super minister.
Yes. Amawulire. Because me, I don't mind government jobs. I mind about the future of this country. And I cannot undermine the president. Why? When you study working for leaders, there's a course. Working for leaders.
Is it a full course?
Yes.
Learning how to work for leaders?
Yes, but the problem in Uganda is that they don't undertake such courses. Ministers are former councillors. When they come, they appointed the ministers. In other countries, these people who appointed the ministers. This is why in countries like Kenya, they came to realize that the government needed experts. But these experts cannot go through an election. For instance, in our area in Buganda, it is only Bukenya, a professor, who can win an election because he conducts himself as the ordinary person. Otherwise, educated people like the rich in Swam and others can only find their way into cabinet if they are
by appointment or nomination.
Yes, if they are appointed by the president. So this is why in Kenya they decided to have ministers outside the cabinet to get the cream of society. The experts are needed.
Those who cannot struggle with the elective politics.
They don't fear elections. Some of our people steal money to ensure that they win because they believe in buying. When you buy, you don't deliver. This is what the voters don't understand. A prostitute and a housewife, what's the difference? A prostitute cannot help a man to build the capacity at home because he's a temporary visitor.
Of course.
This is a woman, housewife, struggles. So this is why in the past, opposition politicians used to deliver. Luchams used to go on a hunger strike to attract the government's attention. But once Parliament was given money, including the opposition politicians, they don't deliver.
Shadow ministers.
They don't deliver, not shadow ministers. The opposition, the leader of opposition, gets money. The chief whip gets money.
With a lot of facilities.
These are MPs. When it comes to money, it cuts across. When they are demanding increments, the euro demand. As a result, our parliament has not delivered. No, MPs have not delivered. The argument is that you work with the mafias, get money, get sponsored, and win.
And when you make it there, make sure you get back your money.
Kakati bano ba voters bote bakimanyi ti oli aguze abantu ba voters bwe babagula bo beerabira. This man has been given a license, has been given a job for 5 years. He will not come back. That's why they end up flocking our places. You have an elected MP, you have an elected LC5
you seek assistance
why
from
do you
Mirundi.
come to me to help you? When you have a representative, we call them people's representatives. Why haven't they helped their people? Why are we talking about poor service delivery at all levels?
Of course.
Yes.
But the issue of buying off voters, Mzee, is so rampant in the NRM.
No.
It's so rampant with the NRM. They go splashing money in the villages.
How do you solve it? You can only solve it by telling the voters that you are now, instead of marrying a housewife, you are marrying you are hiring a prostitute. A prostitute does not care about you. So this is why there is a poor service delivery. The voters agree to be bought. And in many cases, they are given peanuts.
Of course.
Yes.
Just bottles of water, the village, small
so it
bars of soap, half bars of soap.
The voters to understand that this man or woman to work for us should not be given money. He should not give us money. Because once he gives us money, has bought his
way into
5 years.
Parliament.
So you wait another one. If he decides that he does not have money, does not come back. So the practice is rampant in Uganda and other African countries, and it contributes to corruption.
So I needed to know, Mzee, I heard this clergy talking about extending your rule for an extra 3 years.
I'm coming to that. This book you see here, I wrote it alerting the government that you have failed here and here. This will affect your vote, the voting
time, the decision making,
performance in election. It was ignored because our people believe in money. But money, I've told you, service delivery. The argument they should learn from African countries, the African leaders. African leaders used to pamper generals and ignored the lower ranks. This is why as the generals were enjoying, the sergeant those took power. The Captain Valentinos took power in Sierra Leone. You pamper the generals, and then
you leave the
likewise. If you don't deliver service delivery, you get people like Bobi Wine. The people will lose confidence in abayigirize. You are passing a verdict in self-destruction, self-destruction mission. Why is it that people like Bobi Wine have taken the center stage? When I hear people like Ennyo criticizing Bobi Wine, I laugh. Why? The problem, Bobi Wine's political power base is with the youth.
Of course.
Ennyo is in charge, is part of the ministers in the gender ministry, where the youth docket follows. What has she done? You are responsible. The Ennyo are responsible
for the failures in the ministry.
They have caused this penalty kick. They have caused they should funga midomo yake because the Bobi Wine's political power base is derived from the youth,
from the failures of the same people.
So a woman who has failed to cook proper food, how can he complain? How can he complain about firewood? How can she say that the visitors have rejected the food and you abuse the house guard? And you abuse the visitors who have rejected your food? Why didn't you cook a nice meal which could not be ignored by the visitors?
I see.
So the naturalists, that's why I'm tough. Anybody who abuses Bobi Wine, I attack him or her. Not because I support Bobi Wine. You cost us the penalty kick. Like an envelope.
Of course.
And you see,
factors that will affect Museveni's polls in 2021.
There is a big difference between India and China. China has developed faster than India. Why? China is not a democracy. India is the richest democracy. So before a decision is made in Delhi, the strategists, the government strategists must look at how it affects people and the election calendar. So you cannot use the Chinese model in a country like ours where voters can come. In fact, we are lucky that we still have people like Bobi Wine. Why? If you don't have people like Bobi Wine, then we should have a hideous revolution.
I see.
We would see one morning people powering on the streets and removing the government because the communication channels have been closed.
Of course.
And if we do not have...
And those who are signed with the duty to take on such responsibilities are hiding.
They're stealing firewood, they're stealing charcoal. What do they do the other this year?
They're cutting trees.
A presidential representative in an area. And those who are selected in such a way to abate land grabbing.
But I hear you don't facilitate them properly.
Exactly.
They are not facilitated, they end up serving themselves.
What the framers of the Constitution wanted. This is why another DC must be under the Constitution, must be a retired senior civil servant. The thought of people like permanent secretaries, retired. The thought of people like headmasters. The thought of powerful people, a DC, former DC.
People who have served.
A person who has respect, who could attend to people's
needs, who knows them.
But we changed it because of politics.
Of course.
To accommodate everybody because the president is always bombarded by people who want jobs. As if Museveni is a factory. So we must also change this attitude of looking for government jobs. People should learn how to live because the civil service cannot accommodate all of us.
But it's the government that is making these jobs lucrative. They look a little bit as sources of income.
But how many?
Why doesn't government drop the expenses on political
because you are
issues?
Many and you are looking for government jobs. That's why we have pulled him down. The mercenaries,
of course,
the mafia gang, remove you, install their own because they're under pressure from their relatives. We should try, in fact, as like the judges. The judges have done it themselves an insurance where a retired judge goes with his package to live a comfortable life.
Of course.
Because once they leave government, they cannot live a comfortable life outside the government. So that this attitude of looking at government jobs must change and invest, train people to invest to create jobs for themselves and investing
but in them. Once you're given a government assignment, you are left with no time other than attending to your government assignment. Where would you get the time?
No. A person, a minister can go and leave. Why don't you walk after where I see the president always sparing the time to go to his cows? This is what would people see. Yes. So this one, this book, this one, I wrote it in 20, written on Monday, 25th November 2013. This one is one of my best books.
The revolutionary.
The revolutionary. I was explaining that those who are criticizing Museveni, they make mistakes. What is the law? What is Museveni? Museveni is a revolutionary. Revolutionaries come to change society. They are not politicians. You look at the way Besigye and Bobi Wine are conducting themselves. Their interest is to win the election. He can afford, can have the audacity of telling the Kalamajong that if you vote me, I will return your guns. That's a politician. I don't blame him. He's a politician.
Of course, he wants to host a president. So
once
he has to make
there,
a lot of promises.
If you take a power, you can explain, but you're already in power.
Of course.
I will increase public service salaries, but I am going to reduce taxes. The two are contradictory. Where are you going to get the money?
But even Museveni used to say that.
Yes,
they are saying he used to say that when he wanted to politique.
But when you politique, your role is to change society. This is why when you read this book of mine,
The Revolutionary,
that a revolutionary cares about the health of his people. 7 years journey unity to immunize against the killer diseases. He fought HIV. By the time he came, we had one university. We have over 40 universities. Makerere alone can take a week conducting a graduation ceremony. The purpose of education has now shifted. You don't go to the university to get jobs. You get to the university to receive knowledge and apply what you have got at the university.
Of course.
I have never applied for a job in my life. And I don't intend to apply for one in my age. Who can employ a 60-year-old?
But in your life, you tell us it is the result of yourself, not the result of your education.
Yes.
You don't want jobs as a person.
I'm a strugglist. I'm a strugglist. So, immunizing, improving health services, education for all. When the president in 1996 pledged to enable children will never submit, Semogerere at that time was challenging him, laughed it off, that it could not be done even
richest countries.
But eventually they said these were millennium goals. Yes, let us agree. Why didn't all countries start it at the same time? If they were millennium goals. But Museveni looked at the education, looked at the health, looked at what? My only concern.
That is when he was still revolutionary.
Yes, my only concern is that the maintenance.
The follow-up, the assessment.
By now, after 35 years, we will be talking about providing lunch at school.
Free lunch.
Yes, constructing a new and permanent buildings. Because the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Local Government, Ministry of Trade, Ministry of Works, these are vote-catching ministries. Once you mess up with the Ministry of Education, you annoy the parents and their children.
Of course.
This is what these people don't know, who are messing up with education. Health. When you mess up with health, you see the COVID upside we are having, the story of the money. Instead of addressing the real issues, they were going to the president to report to me that I was undermining COVID. God has passed the verdict. Who was correct and who was wrong.
Well, the future, as you normally say, has exonerated
I had to make a bitter decision, never to go back to Kalisa's TV station. Why? Kalisa had been deceived by these people after meeting the president. They were taking him to court. Is this court petition moving on the back of a chameleon? Why hasn't it reached the court for now 2 years? Because me, I'm not intimidatable. I work for the future. All of my books are predictable. Look at this one. This one.
Adjusting the track.
Yes, I said NRM will not solve the problem of independence by riding behind candidates. I said this was a methodology. Lining and security ballots are just methods. Look at why independents are there. I gave the reasons. You have more independence now than
flag bearers.
Yes, if I can read a bit here. This is why I'm not intimidated. Because, I'm telling you, in 2009, while addressing a cadre course at Chankwan's Leadership Institute, President Museveni announced 7 directives that would govern NRM party primaries. He explained that he had been soft on the independents because they defend themselves, saying that primaries involve rigging. He issued guidelines to govern the 2011 elections in the party. However, since then, none of the directives has ever been implemented, and the challenge persists. Museveni said, I cannot denounce independence because they defend themselves, that the elections are rigged. So he gave 7 directives in 2009
as the
to
chairman.
Govern 2011 elections. None of them was implemented. Even here, when they said that the NRM executive had passed a resolution to ensure lining behind, I said no,
but that takes me back to what you said first. Yes. Secretary Generals are a problem to this country.
No.
If Museveni gave directives and Lumumba could not implement them, then he is copying from the previous Secretary General.
They are formidable forces. Even Lumumba has been fighting for him, for herself. Existing. They have this practice of maligning even in newspapers, in the newspapers. I'm so far like I have not smashed any of these mafia media
agents.
Write about malicious article about me, I smash your head. Because they don't know the impact. Somebody suggested, they published an article in the book that my mother had been summoned by the president to witness a metal check on myself. The other day, these people, the arrogant fellows, published a story that I had been appointed to serve on their committee. Have I been cleared by Botapeka people? That's stupidity. You cannot play around with me. That M.i.S.O cannot be a minister because she is mad. Her insanity comes when she is a minister. She remains in the parliament. Why should you keep a mad woman in the parliament? Because they contradict themselves. You play around with the M.i.S.O, not me. They said Kakoza did not have academic papers, but Kakoza
qualified him to be a minister.
Yes, but the two offices require the same academic papers. I don't entertain malice because malice affects your future.
Of course,
you wrote an article in a newspaper that I'm mad. What if another good government comes into power
and you can't serve
and I'm nominated
because of
and somebody
the previous record?
This command of Bukede 6 is a joke. It's not a joke. It has an indelible ink on my career. It's not a joke. Especially Samandela Kazemwe, when she was vying for the AU executive, I think, administrator, she went to Angola. And the Duantos, the then president, told her, had copies of Ugandan published newspapers. Said, you come from Uganda? Yes. Are these newspapers published in your country? Yes. Do you want me to support a person who stole money for animals, intended for animals, to provide water for animals? Was ashamed. But the same fellows who had accused Kazibwe of stealing the money were the now behind her bid. How? I smash your head. You cannot use me twice. You first retract the earlier statement that I'm not insane, or we cannot work together. Even if we meet in the rift vomits the corpse. Me, I don't joke with my record. It has taken me a lot of sacrifices, and
of course.
So I wrote here in this book challenges that NRM could not eliminate independence by changing the methodology. These were my observations. Nature of politics. By the nature of politics, it is not easy to concede defeat. This means that however much the election process can be transparent, losing candidates will always find reasons to reject the results and try their luck again as independent. I observed this. Nobody can concede defeat. In Africa, we are not used to election competition. You just eliminate your opponent and you move on. We are not used to democracy. Number B, the money factor. Since the introduction of money in politics, other factors play a secondary role, whether it is secret ballot or lining up behind the candidates. One must give out money to voters in order to win. NRM party is not an exception. You find the flag bearer with very little resources. I've been saying that I landed on the information, I have recorded the tapes, where 400 million shillings has been sent to undermine Otafire's election. The same applies to M.i.S.O. The same applies to Lukutana. They are eliminating people whom they don't want to play a role in what they call a transition, because they are engaged in early succession battles. And this is what has brought Bobi Wine. Because if widows, if Haji's 4 wives are fighting over sharing of property before his sick bed in the hospital, he dies.
Of course.
Why don't you cure this man so that he recovers and share distribute the wealth when he's around? You can complain, but you cannot complain to a dead person.
Of course.
Yes. So why don't
these are succession battles? Why
don't you concentrate on Museveni's victory? 5 years in politics is a long time, but they are bitter, eliminating others, maligning others. Doing what? Because they have a faction. They have 4 factions in this government. 4 factions. This one has come to pass. I wrote this one. I told you that the radios and the TV sets intended for school children who have been forced out of school by COVID-19 were stolen. 650 billion. Stolen. These were yellow stations. On addition, they were supposed to even work as campaign tools that Museveni has given his Bazukulu, these TVs, and
for distance learning.
Yes. And it would even give mechanics, local mechanics market, because who would repair them if they broke down?
Now the problem is, why would he use them as campaign instruments?
You take advantage. But these people, they were saying, when you look what the requirements, why the conditions they put for bids, they say submission of bids be submitted to the address below, Ministry of Education, not later than the date and the time of the deadline. Bids will be rejected 2nd August 2020, Ministry of Education. But the amount that is required, the amount required, which is required, when an electronic copy of the bidding document is issued, the paper or hard copy is the original version. In the event of any discrepancy between the two, the hand copy shall prevail. Validity of bids, the bids must remain valid until and including 31st November 2020. Where are they? Now they are talking about resumption of schools. They are talking about resumption of schools. Then the question is, and the mafia-controlled media cannot raise this issue, that ladies and gentlemen, you took the money. Are they going to tell us that the money had not been released by... Or are they going to tell us that when this money, if the Auditor General makes audits this money, are they... You look what the requirements. Bid security Uganda shillings 380 million per each of the 4 lots, valid until 30th December 2020. You had to give a guarantee that of the 4 times 300 million, this is how much?
Of course, $1 billion and plus.
Yes. Manufacturers, authorization in the format contained in the bidding document. Sample of the radio to be supplied. Brochure of the radio to be supplied, detailing the radio functionalities and the detailed specification. Evidence of financial credit of at least 19 billion. You had to prove the Ministry of Education that you were capable of accessing a credit facility of 19 billion. Who was 19 billion? And they would eliminate you. If any bank, who controls these banks?
I don't know.
So they are not looking at this as a service, as a vote catching project. No money. Where are you? If somebody gives you, that's why people who serve these days, we hire people from Kampala when it comes to village functions. Why? Because the villagers share the items.
Of course.
And eventually the visitors end up not eating. But these are insiders.
You'd better be safe with the hired people from Kampala
who knew the importance of these sets. But they are sure we shall use peanuts, deduct some of this money and buy off our competitors. That's why some of these people are declaring themselves unopposed. Unopposed means unpopular. Because if you are popular, why don't you say? There was a time when Mulindwa Biri M.i.S.O used to sponsor his opponents, not to go it alone. Biri M.i.S.O used to sponsor his opponents.
Sponsoring an opponent?
Yeah.
Serious?
Yes, because he feared to go unopposed. Unopposed, who are you? What have you done in your area to be unopposed? What happened to Zana Kwizana of Habyarimana? What happened? What happened to Nsonga in Romania, who won the election and the public rose up against him after 2 months? What crime had he committed to these people who had voted him over Olw'Embeera? So you are deceiving yourself. You are like an impotent man who claims the twins of his wife when he knows actually that the twins belong to another man. So when a person who is more shrewd than Bobi when he comes, you can see the fire gutting the whole country within a few months. Because somebody is sitting on people who don't want him.
Of course.
Yes.
Pretending to be unopposed.
Yes. In fact,
and buying off competitors.
The law should change the law to say, after nomination, nobody should withdraw. What if you have already printed the ballot papers? Why do you use the nomination exercise to eliminate others? You remain in 2. The law must be clear.
Isn't it embodied somewhere in the law?
And one of them withdraws, then the nominations must be done again. like in the case of death. But these people think they wanted to declare themselves as an opposed to cause trouble in the other constituencies. You go there, you will be beaten up. Mujja kulaba bibali nga obutweba bwasiza because we get a time to can't interfere in other constituencies because we want to bring the puppets. Try to do it.
They buy off their own to interfere with others.
Others that I'm safe at home. I'm very popular. What? Repeat it. Repeat it to Balabi. Unless Kasaija is voted by his gods, how can Kasaija win? He even feared to venture into the constituency. Tojikwatako, ojikwateko. So, because I'm a risky taker, when you read this book of mine,
bloody,
that Museveni's succession will be bloody, what I'm seeing is not far from what I predicted.
Of course.
Although the president is not retired. I looked at, you see, for me, this is not new. Amanya Mushega said that history does not repeat itself, but if fools make mistakes other fools did in the past. In politics, history does not repeat itself, but if similar situation comes with the different key players, I have seen the role of first ladies in shaping all members of the first family play a vital role. 90%, 80% in ensuring a smooth succession. Because in any case, if they mess it up, they will be the losers.
But when you call it succession, I feel like it's hereditary, kind of monarchical.
Yes, it's not like in the monarchs. Succession, we call it succession. Like when they are saying transition. Transition from where to where. That is transition from one president to another. I think I would call it swearing ceremonies. I have not seen another president in 35 years. Yes, because the one who has not been defeated. If you want to see... They
say he rigs the polls.
If you want to
he rigs the elections.
You want to
how is he going to be defeated?
If you want to say grave in your plantation, you kill one of your relatives. You wait when somebody dies. So me, in Rwanda... The first lady split the Hutus into two. And because of the split, the RPF took advantage. And the moderate Hutus were being persecuted. Thought, looked at RPF as a protector. They looked at RPF as their military wing. And the Tutsis had tried 3 times through Burundi to go back to Kigali. But all of the 3 attempts had ended up in failure. What the Habyarimana did, every family offered a son to counter the Interahamwe in Kontain. This time, because the Agas had split the Hutus into 2, the moderate Hutus, like Agasa Uringimana, the Alex Kanyarengwezi, the Twagiramungozi, joined the RPF. Looking at it as a counter that they had secured a protector. Both the Hutus lost. The moderate Hutus that were killed, targeted and killed, and the extremists left Kigali to Kigalama, eventually to Congo, where they're dying one by one in exile. They lost. Agasa ended up dying in Kenya. She died in exile. You go to Malawi, Mama Kazamira did the same. Mama Kazamira was advised that Kamusi Banda had become senile. But Kazamira thought that this man couldn't be defeated because the party structure was still strong. And in fact, the Kanu sent experts to Malawi to help Kamuzu win the elections. What happened? Kamuzu Banda was removed from State House on the stretcher, had been decisively defeated by a little known Bakiri Murusi. In Kenya, the first lady influenced the orderly succession by sidelining the extremists and joining the moderates like Charles Njonjo, that eventually culminated in the M.i.S.O election as president, succeeding Kenyatta. And because of this contribution, M.i.S.O never changed Kenyatta's currency for at least 5 years. He never removed his portraits. He never tampered with his monuments. In Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, Moi Airport, Jomo Kenyatta University, Moi University.
They're still there.
And eventually,
some are still there up to date.
He hinted like Mbabas. Moi said, I will return the leadership where I got it. People did not understand him. The man actually fulfilled his promise. He selected Uhuru Kenyatta to succeed him. The first time, he suffered transferred anger because he was seen as a stooge for Moi. That Moi wanted, like Mama Kazamira, that Moi wanted to rule the country through a novice by proxy. When this man shed off the Kanu image, he is president of Kenya. Courtesy of Moi, the first lady. That's why I looked at this when I was writing this book. Bloody. In Africa, many people believe that you are abusing your narrator. Me, I don't abuse the people. But in Africa, people don't want to listen to people like us who tell you what is likely to happen. I wrote in this book that the first lady is undermining the successor. And I gave reasons. I said the challenge with the women is that they live longer than their husbands. This may be because they go into marriage at a very younger age compared to their husbands. The second reason is because men are deployed in risky situations which put their chances of survival and longer life in danger. This partly explains why the widows are many. However, unless a man remarries and gets care from a new woman, he lives a short life after his wife's demise. So every woman will ask you, Tata gundi wofira wanondekeraji. It's not a curse. They live longer. There are many widows than widowers. Yes. So the first ladies, this is where they fail. How do you shape succession? Succession can be done through the party structures. Succession can be done by allies. If you embark on a self-destruction mission by humiliating, mistreating, fighting, those who have had the misfortune, I call it a misfortune. Why should it be working closely with
working with the government is a misfortune?
You see, politics is like a marriage. However bad your husband's relatives are, you cannot fail to identify one or two.
You can work with.
You can work with.
Talk to.
But once the first family becomes inwardly looking, and they think, they compare society as docile, they think they can get their way by all means. This is where things go wrong. So I said in Malawi, Banda's wife, Mama Cecilia Kazamira, frustrated all efforts to replace his husband, who was senile. In her calculations, Kazamira believed that Banda was going to win an election despite his ill health. That one I've already explained. So I said the people of Malawi voted alongside regional lines. Nibaletani. Kakati mu Uganda, a problem eriwo nabagamba nti when I assess it properly, the president and the first lady have got opportunity, unlike other couples, first families, to see properly the situation. And this They have to put it in mind when they are shaping the 2-0 from 2021 to 2026. Why? Look what I've said, that because
Agatha, they had time.
Because Agatha messed up things, she ended up in exile. Look what Galanga, Rebecca, was a general, is a general in M.i.S.O army, and her husband was a general. What happened to Rebecca? Rebecca is now siding with Macha, because Rebecca's family comes from the Nua, where Macha comes from. I think her parents migrated there. And I think that's why Galanga picked her for the purpose. She could cut across the Dinka and the Nuas. When she died, Salva Kiir had no law for her. In Ethiopia, Zenawi is the first lady, was almost pushed out of the state house. This is the only house she had known for a very long time. They did not think about having, that's why I praise the president. He normally goes and says, I have my country, I have where to go. So the woman, Zenawi's wife, was almost removed by police to vacate the state house, to give way for another person, another family.
Like Trump had done.
Yes, the new government had no place for her. When you go to Mozambique, Machero's wife ended up marrying Mandela, who was an old man. It cannot even be called the marriage. It just looked for somebody, because if it was a marriage, why had Mandela divorced his wife, who bore the hardships when he was in prison for 27 years. If it was Winnie, who had been imprisoned, would Mandela have waited for 27 years? And she was beautiful, very young. Even if she had made such a father, Mandela would have had the kind words for his wife. But I think the reason why they divorced, Mandela knew that her wife was a firebrand. These were the type who had suffered under apartheid, who did not want the Mandela's approach. They were looking for revenge. This is why Kurisi Hani, who is known as Ugandan, was commanding the Agria army, had to be eliminated immediately. Yes, Mandela's wife would have been eliminated, because these were the people, like this Marine, killed the Boer. But the Boers had nowhere to go. These are South Africans. So such radicals, I'm seeing these radicals in NRM, the youth wing of the mafia gang. Those who think that they have money, they have what, they can eliminate it.
They have guns, they swing guns in town.
As youth, so that attitude, you look at the other countries, what has happened to other countries? That the problem, look at Malawi, look at Angola. Angola, Dos Santos handpicked his successor. They had fallen out. But he thought that this man had repented. No, he harbored revenge against the Dos Santos. Dos Santos remained as national chairman, thinking that this would protect him.
Handpicking his successor would help him.
When you read my book, Rules and Principles of Succession, which I published in 2011, I said people want, human nature demands independence. They want to get out of the shadow of their bosses. You cannot determine. But Moi knew that he had got the power cutters of the first lady. Moi never attempted to fought to the Kikuyos, but he never attempted to fight the Kenyatta family. Because he knew before he consolidated himself, Moi knew that the Kikuyos would eliminate him. So this is the reason. When you are handing, I argue in this book that can Museveni, if Museveni gets believes that they can rehabilitate any of those people who have fallen out with him, will liberate it. Unless you put up
rehabilitating those, thinking that with his setting aside, these people will treat him well.
Yes. The only safeguard must be in the constitution. Jerry Rawlings.
But sometimes say when some government goes away, they can tamper with the constitution.
No.
Whether you have to put safeguards in the constitution.
But you see, it depends on the performance of the first family. That's what I'm saying. That the first family has a very big role to play in order to shape the, like in Kenya, it dawned on the Kenyans that the Kikuyu could not succeed the Kikuyu.
I need to understand, to understand, Mzee, how this strategy of the clergy coming up to say...
I'm coming to that. That one I'm telling you, all of this is emerging out of panic. They are panicking. The group that brought Bobi Wine, I deal with Bobi Wine's story in this book.
The new one?
Yes, this is the new one. Where I tell you that Bobi Wine was Kasoveza. Kasoveza means Kasoveza is somebody who is a part of the family. Kasoveza is a member of the family who engages in stealing from the family. It becomes very difficult for the family to understand, to detect who is doing that. Because in every meeting where you strategize to get the person who is stealing your item,
and is in attendance also.
So Bobi Wine has benefited from the Kasoveza theory that the people who brought Bobi Wine are insiders. Bobi Wine was brought by insiders who underestimated him. The insiders, I tell you, how the idea of Bobi Wine was conceived. I have pointed out that in order to serve, governments must deliver services to their people. Even where it is a dictatorship, if the people resort to riots, if basic services are not available. Therefore, like elsewhere, the mafia gangs have turned against their masters to save their skin. The Ugandan mafia gang plotted against Yoweri Museveni. They wrongly believed that Museveni had become a political liability. This is what motivated Vice President Paulo Muwanga to turn against Milton Obote. Agati, Banu Bagundi, Bamafia.
Those who think that Museveni is a liability now.
That Museveni has become a liability. But they feared to remove him because all of the options of removing him Museveni have been tried and failed. Besigye overestimated himself and he thought that he could remove Museveni through a popular uprising. His work to work crusades were intended targeting working places. That if the government failed to tackle the basic menace, Ugandans would support Besigye to remove a government that had failed to protect them. So Besigye failed. But Besigye was also funded by the same group. Uganda has never produced a genuine opposition leader.
Except Bobi Wine now. This is the problem. Even Bobi Wine is not an opposition leader. Bobi Wine just rebelled, was captured by the American to pursue their interests. That's why they are not pressurizing Museveni to retire. They are only engaging him. Make sure that your election process is clean. Otherwise, we shall find the problems of working with you in the future if your election is questionable. This is what they are telling him. Yes. Once the electoral process is tainted, of course the whites cannot work with you.
No. Americans will not work.
Are you trying to tell me that's why they are not interfering that much to force him out of power?
Bano. Nga bamaze okutegeera ti abantu banyiivu. Government bajibbi. They have tampered with the electricity. $50 million that Museveni has secured to implement his pledge, manifesto of spreading electricity to villages. 400 villages have been identified. He recently secured 400 million. They targeted it and eventually he suspended it. That's why this Minister Kitutu is ordered the arrest of the man Museveni put there, Lutwama. Lutwama's contract expired as he was writing his report as a gentleman, not to run away like a kitchen thief. He was rounded up by military police, beaten up, and
bandered away.
He was pushed into Kireka police station as a thief. Tomorrow I don't report. You get an arrogant man like him, even if you be my contract, I don't come. Abasajja bano obujozo obwakakundi ako balina okulagibwa obusungu ti bwe bakujooga tobaddamu kuba Lutwama kati singa Lutwama afa famire ye mugiwaaki nothing mabugo ga mitwala bilioni 3 atina kone bagabbira mu Kuba. Who is helping you? Why should Lutwama be humiliated when he is serving the government? He does not have any company. He is just helping you. I tell my children here, nti abantu abajja wano abalunde ente abakola mu nkoko, they will never share anything if I die. You must treat them well. We come because we are Ugandans. We come because we are educated. We have the qualifications. We come because we have a contribution. We are entitled to these jobs.
Of course.
You
went to school first before anything.
This is one area the mafias need to readdress. I hear they are reorganizing, except this wing of the radical. Bajja kubuyola obuvubuka obwo bujoga abantu obwo bajja buyola mu kikwe bentu ezo bazaasi budduke n'obugagga bwabwe bugenda. But these people are offered to work with this moderate wing because they have realized their mistake. Why did they bring Bobi Wine? They thought that the mafia wanted to hoodwink the youths. Majority of them are disgruntled. We have brought one of your own. 2, Kyagulanyi is not highly educated and therefore poses not threat to Museveni. This is what they believe. That's why you critically look at their argument. Nobody is questioning Kyagulanyi's mobilization capacities as long as he campaigns for them, because the NUP was given to him to create a wing in NRM that Museveni does not control. Yes.
Hey, giving him a party in that strategy silently. When
we put in money, we invest in money in MPs and there is 5 chairpersons, Museveni calls them and controls them through the caucus. Independents are not reliable because they can easily sign a memorandum of understanding and work with the government. So they wanted to create their own party, have their own MPs they control.
That's why it looked very smart to give Bobi Wine a party without anyone, to the surprise of everyone.
Yes. And 2, independents don't benefit at all. Even if Bobi Wine did not go to parliament and remain the chairman, he would benefit in 2 ways. 1, under our arrangement, the second run-up in the president's election, if he has MPs in the parliament, even if they are 3, they produce the leader of opposition. 2, MPs earn money for their political parties. So if Bobi Wine gets 50 people, Mao has built a headquarters that eluded Ziyamba and Benish one, who had more resources. Ziyamba had resources, was connected to the Christian Democrats in Europe, a close friend of the former German Chancellor, Dr. Helmut Kohl. That's why Ziyamba helped Museveni when he became a foreign minister. He knew most of these people. But Ziyamba failed. They only talked about it when they were financing. Mao has managed to construct the headquarters, have a security staff, give them salaries, live a comfortable life out of 14 MPs
of DP.
NRM can get 5 billion from contributions to parliament. That's why I tell you that Museveni is not a dictator. People, leaders, have been always trying to undermine the political parties, eliminating them, suppressing them financially to close to ruling parties. But now, Mao can live a comfortable life. The moment is that you must have MPs. So this is why these people decided to create a wing away from NRM, which they could easily control.
But now it has failed.
It has failed. Bobi Wine had rubbed the Mengo the wrong way. When the Buganda Land Board grabbed his land, his supporters stood up against the Kabaka and sent abusive messages on social media. This was unprecedented. Bobi Wine is too good to be true. Okuba otyamengani yali akikoze. Abemengo babetta kalye. Baba fuma ku social media ne Kabaka ne bamuvuma. And it did not it did not affect his popularity. But it was the Mengo who was quoting him. Ajje mu bivulu bafulireko sente. Ne bandi bamuyise oyo mayiga yali akamufuna mu sente. Tebamukondemminga nga balala. One, bategera nti the losers. Kakati bana baamule
yakwata ku Mengo eyako omuliro.
Nenkugamba nti government fell into Kyagulanyi's trap when they banned his concerts and the security took tough measures against him, which backfired. Kyagulanyi took advantage of the mafia-controlled media. Museveni had made a serious blunder with the doctor message. You see, when the message came, the president started responding to what he said in a new vision. And he offered to write regular articles to respond to messages. The public, this is when the public realized that they were actually bad blood between the two. Otherwise, people had not taken them serious. When I talked to the late Mayombo, that I was seeing a message with the late Njuba at the parliamentary building talking to MPs, Mayombo told me nobody from the West could take on Museveni.
You had even seen that earlier?
Yes.
Serious?
Yes. So, kakati bano bakola ensobi. Nti Bobi Wine bamufuula a victim. Baggala ebivulubi. Naye nga bo tebamanyi. President yali tamanyi. Nti baggala ebivulubi, yaggala ebivulubi. Naye bano abaamuleese ssente bazimuwa.
Ekivuniro kiba kigaddwa.
Yes.
Ye sente zalina okuba.
Kakati Museveni ng'akwata ssente aguleyo baakusasira ne baani nga ye Bobi Wine asigalawo.
Kube sente azifuna. Tajja kwegayirira.
Nkugamba nti ridiculing Bobi Wine as a failure and a mere musician who should remain in the music rather than politics. However, the popularity wave has continued to surge and sweeps like a storm, sending more panic in the mafia camp. At this stage, trying to dismiss his credibility, Bobi Wine will not undermine his popularity. I gave examples of leaders who have imagined in the same way. Bano. That's why we have Bobi Wine muvuma. Tugwenna kiwala kingi oli mu bavubuka. Go to let the kizibu sente wa banzibe. Yagenda ejinja n'agamba president buli muvuka simayiva mu million 2. How?
Wavuka ne badda kazindalo ne basaba sente.
Yes. Mukula amuvuma. Mukula gwa leta problem eteso. Bamuka boys sibasasule. Ale boys sibasasule. This talking teriyo. Kakati why do you abuse Bobi Wine?
Mute yasoma.
Yes.
Aina diploma mwe mudidi.
If a houseboy impregnates your wife, you don't abuse the houseboy. The houseboy has scored. You don't even, these are things that you keep
quite about.
Yes, you beg your wife to abort because the baby will become a constant. So, Bobi Wine, if a marijuana smoker, but what they don't know, Bobi Wine went through a rehabilitating process. They sure the
before they arraigning these abuses.
Minister mu government ya Museveni ngakutte kutiya sente abantu emitwalo 5 gandi vote Bobi Wine. Bobi Wine bamujjayo police ne mukozesa rehabilitate the youth. Nayimba ennyimba ezivumirira enjaga. Nawasa mu church and you see gwetunulya Bobi Wine. Bobi Wine okumanya musajja muzibu nnyo. Nti bano be baali bamukozesa. Bamuzimba
nenga tebalina distraction mechanism. Tunolya Bobi Wine. Bobi Wine is married from Ntungam. His wife is from Ntungam. Where the first lady comes from, the first Museveni's family originated from Ntungam to where they are now. Lukutana is a close relative of Bobi Wine through marriage. Look what Ennyo. Who knew that Ennyo spoke fluent Kinyuankole? And Ennyo was picked from the monitor. A very eloquent man who picked this team. This man has a Nubian. The Nubian community is not happy. Era bano bali tebakitegeera. Omanyi nti bagenda mu limbo y'abanubbi babakube baje ettaka balitunde nga intelligence temanyi why to incite the Nubians against Museveni.
I see.
Bobi Wine is handled by very tricky people. Chifula nabaga nti look at the tearing, the gas tearing pattern. Ewamu bakubawo wala tebakubawo. Nenga Bobi Wine takyusiza ku nkola ye. Nti wano akkiriza police wanaatakkiriza. Nembaga nti what exposes Bobi Wine ng'oli musajja mugezi ye lale yeruuka. The earlier one was dispersed. The second one was not. Because its intention was to save Mbayo's career. Mbayo lost her son under mysterious circumstances. Because people almost stormed her house. They wanted to cut the power and destroy her property. She used every opportunity to say, no, I'm not the one. I did not. Who convinced Bobi Wine to go back to war? Was it in his program that he will go back to work again? And when he goes back to work, the rally is not dispersed. I asked the police, telling me the difference between the two.
The first one,
the first
dispersed
one,
and the second one.
Are you telling me?
Of course, Nanga can come up with all reasons. Nanga has all ways of coming up with that explanation.
Nabagamba, nti Nanga tamanyi. Kakati nemba gamba, nti Bobi Wine okumujerega tekiriiwo. Nibamusasula sente nga tayimba naye nga bamuwa sente. Yenga president alowooza tayina sente. Kuba normally government can cut off your financial muscle. That's normally done to grip an opponent. But basically, olwokuba so opponent, petrol station is businesses. Even when they are alleged, yawatadde walapie agende konga alwane. Ne bakwatayo yo musajja we. Bakwatayo mukyamujjukira. Bamukwatayo kongo. Naye Besigye baali yadde empunu ku faamu ye.
Nga yono bakuripolinga ebivulu oli ye tewaliwo sayini
nga ye Museveni tamanyi nti bano be bawa Bobi Wine ki nkugamba nti they use their people in security to intimidate him like what happened in Arua. This attracted wide condemnation both locally and external. Nga be babikola ate baawona okumuttirayo bali tuleetedde crisis wano. Naye nga babikola bamunda ono omanyi kankubuulire kasitolaba ewaka nga house boy ne house gali balwanagana buli kaseera babalimba linda pregnancy kati bamukolanga
babakubuzaabuza
nga toyinza nga bo bamutunda naye nga ono tayinza kukitegeera nga president alina wategeerera nti omusajja ono waabwe abamuwagira bali nange yali tasobola kukitegeera singa simuyeekera baali mukubya ekigolo singa Bobi Wine baamuleeta nga bazze kujjako Museveni baali mugjeeko naye baamuleeta kuzannya game bamubiramu ssente ne bamubbiramu n'agula baakusaza nkugamba they turned against the people power supporters buying off musicians including Catherine Kusase and Ronald Mayenja. This plan also proved. Those who turned against Bobi Wine became society outcasts, while some of them returned and apologized to the population, which had isolated them. I likened the people power to a woman with big bums. Trying to undress her cannot affect her size. Although efforts to out down Bobi Wine potential wealth has failed right from the mafia and the using the law. Yabatuka ekiseera America yamukwata. Bobi Wine bwe yagenda mu America yakwatibwako omusajja bamuyita Amsterdam. Amsterdam is the recruiting office of CIA. sayi ene mukwata ne bagamba mu katabo kange mu 2017 ti abantu abafaanana Bobi Wine mu begenderere ne bawa examples those you underrate even Museveni at one time was underrated.
Of course
Muwanga yagamba Museveni bwe batazaala mu Buganda abeera ati alwana ate olutalo n'aluwangula wano lujja mulema agende ewaabwe mwankole basemogere olwoza lwaki bagenda mu gavumenti
nga balaba tajja kumalako
anti Amini yagambanga teri bayeekera bawangula gavumenti ya ggwanga tendeke lyejje lya ggwanga tendeke even Mutesa had failed to mobilize the people to come to Obote. How could Museveni mobilize peasants to top a government? It was inconceivable. Kivula basemogere basalawo genda wa mu parliament nga balaba nti ekyamusa
banagende
tekikola
tekitambula
ne bidandisa lyagaana okugenda era bidandi never helped the rebels in any way. When you read Chaligonza's book and Kategaya's book, they condemn Bidandi. Why? Bidandi could not believe the government basobola okusula government tewali yali akikkiriza mbagamba bulijjo
nakati Bobi Wine bamu
underestimating n'agenda mu American hands. The good thing about the president is that has detected them. Museveni amoving na daughter
nakuzo twamulabye takyalina wakwesiga atambula na muwala we kati
bano ababbi ababadde babbye ssente empitirivu ennyo akawunti yazisiba kakati ate awo gavumenti weekoledde bulanda nti olaba Museveni alina omuntu we gwalowooza ennyo nti ahandolinga amawulire tagamanyi kuba naye alina move ezize. One of Museveni's close relatives naye alina ambitions obwa president. That's why it was tricky singa sibayamba batwitinganga nga balaga nti afende muhozi yayagala okutta Bobi Wine. If Bobi Wine was killed, who would be blamed?
Of course the government.
Until I came up and said these tweets are fake. Sizize. No. Kuba nakitegeera ti Muhoozi cannot rebel against his father. It was not in the interest of Muhoozi to harass Bobi Wine, but okena okumutta nga bulemu ejja kujja kuggwe ne kitaawo.
Mpulira.
Ekitege naye olaba baali bakikola nti bamunda.
Abakikola.
Museveni's relatives. If Museveni's relative.
Everyone thought it is the arrogance of Muhoozi.
Who knows who has the money now to control the media? Why didn't he detect this? Media jakulembera. That's why I refused to work with them. Mumanyi. Tinaina yali agala kweyambisa linnyo lyange. Oli eyambisa oti. Ai manya. Tikakati gwiraba. Stories abantu tibazitegeera. When Bobi Wine said that he was going to increase public service salaries the following day, Vision published a story quoting the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Public Service saying that government was also planning to increase salaries. This means that what Bobi Wine had said was possible, was doable.
Of course.
It was
to prove.
I'm handling Amawulire. Stories of the Fulumazitya. Never come Amawulire. Bobi Wine survives a bullet. Muredi paper. Sitole no. Gwebawa sente relative way. Gwebawa midija sente to control the media bayambi. Just yesterday.
Kutisa intimidating the media journalists.
Stories on
chakola.
Stories zibakolera zonna. Nga bwe bavuga ku kusaasira. Nono gwebawa sente z'amawulire bwali. Alimba ono. Alimba president iti alina kyakolawo. Look, as you round up lawyers whom you accuse, you suspect of being conduits of America finances to Bobi Wine. The Monitor published an article that NRM is going to finance its candidates by 31 billion. Why do you stop with Bobi Wine to get money when you are funding your people?
And you said the secretariat will be given this money.
It works as government in three ways. One, people are going to pounce on the NRM candidates because a newspaper has claimed, has reported that you have the money.
Which is, of course, a government.
So if this NRM person who is not going to be with the money will not be voted, because these people will say sente yaziridde
bamuwadde.
2 is bribery. Somebody can nullify the election. Is bribery. 3 you make a Bobi Wine a victim. If money is not needed in an election, why is it that the NRM people are funded?
If you're saying you should freeze accounts of supporting Bobi Wine.
Amawulire amuyamba ki? Amukolera ku byamawulire amuyamba ki? Tamuzanya reverse psychology. Because he was allocated a lot of money to handle the media. Nze nentema bwentegeera nga yasasuddewo ssente nga pulogulaamu njijjawo. Kyova olaba yali ayagala ayise mu UCC ng'ayagala omukutu gwange bagugjewo nga oyo tayinza kunfuga talinfugako n'omulambo gwange tali gufugako. Bw'alibeera mu gavumenti ndibeera mu opposition. Nsikozesebwa ebyo byako. Kaakati tuba tuli awo. Tuba tuli awo. Ab'NRM ne bagamba temumanyi. We are going to create our talent center. Meaning the committee that was appointed by the president and vetted by parliament, the ruling party has lost trust in the committee. Obama temukesiga abakalonda.
Mpulira.
Yes.
Mugenda kuteekawo eri parallel ewammwe.
Mugenda kuteekawo ewammwe. Kakati yefu muteekawo eyammwe. Ate lwaki kigaana other contenders okuteekawo. You have already said.
Mwe temwesiga bali. Mukamweterewo eyammwe.
Singa Bank of Uganda ereeta currency. Government negamba NRM. Tutaddewo ekyuma ekikebera ssente ziva mu Bank of Uganda. Eyammwe. Who is doing this? Tell me.
Maybe they don't know the impact of what they do to public and their futures.
Ekitegeeza tali kuono. Sente yazimu wamanyi gye zaava. Kyolaba nadduka. Bwe bataddewo ka office nga bafuge. Nange mutani wa mirundi yaleta okunfugiramu. You said I'm a madman. Did you consider me important? Bwe mwali mulya sente za COVID?
Now, what if
bwe mwali mulya sente zenzige mwampita? Why do you think that I'm a fool who can be used? Omulenzi yajoga. Omulenzi mujozi.
What if the opposition also puts a priority center for their...
The government would stress one point through the Electoral Commission. Nobody is allowed to release any election results at any stage. Because this is what happens. People report on the streets that Bobi Wine has won.
Yes.
In fact, this is when all of the TV stations and here would rely on one source. Why do you believe that the Muslims rely on one person, the director of Sharia, to inform the fasting Muslims that the moon has been sighted? Have you ever seen a Kampala Mukadde and the Chibuli competing over the sighting of the moon?
No.
Kubanga baja
the people were specially made for that.
Gwali ekyuddeko ku social media nti baweerezaako nti omwezi bagulabye.
That official communication.
Because they have one official communication. In some countries where you have private radio stations and TV stations, the news hour, the 1 o'clock news and the 9 p.m. news all must receive the same information from one source.
Which source is that? Is it a government-provided source?
Yes, you will be channeling, but UBC was eaten up by Kaheru. Bali zikola audit nazinonyi. Kakati mu 7 time Amini yaleka UBC. Ngewulirwa mu Latin America ne mu Europe ne mu America. UBC nga ina radio mmeka abana bo bazimeketa. Baduka baduka
sente bazibeketa ne batema balowooza nti kakati the only insurance is to be in power. You are planning when others are planning. In fact, it would be better to take a low profile and let the people forget about you. I said, instead of abusing people like Bagamiri, don't abuse her. She was appointed by the president. What you do? Museveni has created an avenue for you to clean yourselves when you are still in the power. Of course.
When
you go there, take good use of the commission.
To cover up what they have destroyed, what they have stolen, they must be in charge of government by hook or crook.
bana muti mujja kisobola temujja kukisobola kakati eyo tale nkugambye ekuba government story ya monitor eyoku rounding up people and at the same time they mentioned that you have the money, you have distributed the money and you see a story ere Kuba the national fund ekuba ba Lumumba what if that money is not there? Lumumba has had problems on explaining the sub centers kakati story ya monitor efulumi and what amazes me is that tewaba waji wakani oyo omulenzo yajoga ennyo yali antadde kakiiko ke Museveni has appointed. How can Museveni appoint me without consulting me? Ne bakijja mu new version gwesisoma ne bakitwala mu kati akakiiko kaliwa yali anzanyira tosobola kunzanyira ku bwongo mwe bavubuka mwe am more intelligent than I can combine my intelligence capacity combine all of you ntinziruka emisinde ngazuka misinde
bakutuziza kati
nebakyali badde kituufu mwebe mmanyi mmwe nti era sente yateeka mu kampuni bwe nazirya nadduka nkole nammwe I rather work with this old wing.
Of course.
I have decided to work with this moderate wing because they have realized the penalty bebagireese. Realizes the penalty bebagireeta.
Now why the panic mzee?
Anti kakati.
Why the panic with the
Nitutuuka ku kyokubiri. Nti as you talk about COVID-19, COVID is also requires somebody to study it critically. Look, why is COVID selective? Have you seen a high profile demand person in Bobi Wine's camp dying out of COVID? Why is it concentrating on
the NRM who have been following the SOPs?
Lumumba has been down. Kasamba is down. The national chairman's office was at one time closed. Katerega, who usually works with Naduli in the Buganda region, is down. Why does this COVID targeting NRM people? Ask.
We should be asking those questions. With the people you say breach the rules of health rules.
Kubanga Bobi Wine gwe mugamba akatambuza tanafuna mu prominent person afa. Lwaki kalondoola be NRM ng'omulondo kiki mutambuza katambuze oba mulimba nti every office which is going to handle money mubera mu wa COVID ne bagigala. Who is doing this? Emitwe gyabwe gibagamba nti bobo ka bebalina okuba nese
balina okuyiiya.
Once they hear nti Museveni agenda kuyisa wano sente balwala umu kankubule kabusenga assigned a national reporter to cover the function where the president distributed yellow bicycles. Deliberately omwana wasima enkeera ne bagala new vision ne bagikebere ne bamukwata. Obusajja buno bubi obulenzi obwo bubi temubukiza nga kwata ku ggwanga lino. Buyinza okutuma n'emikono bugitunda ate kiki butakolangako buli wamu wonna bulinga 10 bwe buti. These are very dangerous fellows. Bakola ebintu beyond people's imagination.
Kyeyali akola ng'ayagala sente za COVID.
Ate tebagigala nti ng'asinze akasajja ako kabi akasajja ka new vision yako naye kajja kusasula binekkulubya bajja kusasula kakati bakagobye kalemeddeyo fuluma bakunywe lwaki olemera munda nedda fuluma kasajja gwe nsi ekkwateko yakulinda bwadda.